Hello and thank you, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Lyme Recovery. There is hope, right? It's not all in your head. You're not crazy, unlike what we've been told for so many years. And, Tony here, the director, one of the stars in the movie of The Monster Inside Us, and Riker is also in the movie as well, talking about the Lyme autistic connection. He tells his story about his son and what he went through with all this beautiful things. So, you know, so many of us have seen so many different doctors, so many different practitioners, right? We've been looking for answers for so long, and it's beautiful when people can put up on screen what a lot of us have, only other Lyme people, right, can understand. And so thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on and joining me today. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Let the good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Heather Gray with Discovering Health, aka LymeBoss. I help professionals who have Lyme disease conquer their brain fog, address their embarrassing digestive issues so that they can get back to living a joy-filled, productive life instead of being wiped out on the couch, unlike so many of us do. So it was funny, Tony, and I'm going to try to keep my emotions in check today. But it was even at the breakfast table this morning, I was talking with my husband about the documentary, and he was gushing about how well it was put together and just what an awesome job you did. And I want to say thank you for following that part of Francis's story, looking at the Lyme rage, right? Because even when you hear the word Lyme rage, you think that it's only about anger, but as you portrayed it on screen was actually the way that I experience it as well. Granted, sometimes there's some Hulk moments, especially on the highway, but it's mostly kind of this crying, spinning, melty mess that most people who have never experienced Lyme will never understand. So I just want to say thank you for getting that on camera and portraying that so well. Was that hard to film, as her partner? Was that hard for her to be filmed? What was that like, being in that really vulnerable space?
I don't know if hard is the right word. It was nearly impossible. It was excruciating. It was excruciating. It was almost death defying. It was horrific. But the movie, the film, in the 5 years that it was done, had 3 or 4 deaths and then resurrections, as most projects, most dreams do. And it was always her that would say, no, let's raise this thing up again, because people need to know, they need to see this side that hasn't really been shown. So it was, to answer your question, it was extremely hard. Even Riker, when he came on board, and we advanced the project, and then we found out that his son had Lyme, I asked him, do you think you could film him having some fits? And even for him, he was like, oh man, I see what you guys went through, because just having to film a loved one going through a fit like that is very painful, horrific, really horrific. Yeah, but necessary, if I may add.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember asking Tony, I was like, so Francis is the first time we watched a rough, I'm like, Francis is good with all of this? He's like, well, we've been through some rounds where she's one day I don't think we can put that in there. And then Tony's like, but no, we have to put that in there. That is what people want to see, so that way they don't feel crazy, right? When they experience it and they can go, oh my gosh, it's not just me that goes through this. So the bravery, right, on the part of Francis is huge, that she signed off on no, I understand and know that this has to be out there. I mean, it's huge.
Absolutely. I mean, God bless her, and tell her I can't say thank you enough. I finally got pissed off at my husband and my stepson for not kind of understanding Lyme, for being together for 4 years, that I finally sat them down one night and I said, watch this. And then I left because I couldn't watch it again. I've already seen it 3 times and it just makes me bawl, and I just couldn't watch it again. So I come back, both of them stood up, gave me a great big hug. They were in tears, and they finally got it. It's one thing to hear it from their loved one, but like I said, sometimes they can't. So thank you for, like I said, portraying on camera what so many of us experience, but can't,
Yeah. And Riker, do you remember, we're talking 20 2019, you and I talking, saying, do you think this will have an impact? Do you think that people, and we didn't know, when you're inside your bottle, you can't read your own label. And we were thinking and saying, I guess let's keep pushing forwards. And yeah, fast forward to this day, we still get hundreds of emails of people saying, I cried the entire time, and my whole family now understands. And that's a huge blessing.
Well,
Huge blessing to us.
Remember, Heather, you probably know who Allie Hilfiger is, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So obviously she's in the Lyme community, famous because of being the daughter, right? Tony, tell Heather what she said when you first sent it to her, what her response was to when you said, watch the movie.
That she couldn't watch it. So she had a hard time watching it first.
Like she couldn't even finish it, like started and couldn't even finish it.
She couldn't. And as a matter of fact, there's been a couple of people that have gotten in touch with us that have said, I want to see it, but it's just too hard for me right now. And I've told them, well, why don't you do this? And they have the movie already. So why don't you do this? Watch the intro. It's the first 7 minutes. Skip parts 2 and 3, which is the losses of Lyme and the darkness of Lyme. The darkness of Lyme is something people have to watch to understand how dark this disease is, but it's a tough part. But start at the healing of Lyme and then the beauty of Lyme. And you'll have an interesting perspective of the more positive. And people, and I've told that to about 5 people, and they've all returned to me saying that was amazing. And so it led me to think of doing a cut of The Monster Inside Me, the light version.
That's actually a great idea. But I mean, yours is
the dark.
One of the better ones out there that I've seen. I mean, even like the newest one out there, the silent epidemic, I think, or the quiet epidemic, which was just released. They did a really great job as well. But you guys even took such a different spin. Like you portrayed a different part of Lyme that most people you just don't like. And the Lyme autistic, connection was just huge. Like all these things that I've been saying for years and years and years was finally up there on the big screen. And I felt like that's what I was doing the whole time was I watching it, was like turning around and pointing, going, look, see, I've been saying, see, especially at the end when she was talking about the connection between lifestyle and how she relapsed, right? She went back to her old way.
Yeah.
And relapse. Like that is my number one. If nobody hears anything ever, it's like you've got to dial in that lifestyle piece, right?
Yeah, we had a viewer that emailed us a couple weeks ago and said that she changed her name. Her name is Karen. She changed it to Karen version 2.0. And she said that she is asking everybody to call her Karen version 2.0. I said, all right, because that was the message, that you have to rebuild, restructure yourself, and it's a rebirth to something better. Yeah. But I don't know if you're going to touch on this. Not everybody gets well. It's still a dark tunnel without a light at the end for a lot of people, and that's why we don't have the magic pill answer to Lyme disease. It's more, you just can't lose your hope. You just cannot. That is detrimental. If you're going to lock yourself in the dark, you have to continue pushing yourself to celebrate life. This is a God-given right, and we owe it to ourselves. So that is the final message of the film. Wherever you are, continue to push yourself. Back in the beginning of 2017, Francis and I, Riker wasn't even on board yet. We had we did an interview with a mom and a son. It didn't make the cut though, because there were several problems with it. But the son was one of those situations where he was just locked in his room. And we were sitting with the mom, the cameras were ready to roll, and the son came out and he was limping and he was all, kind of shriveled. And we just fought so hard not to just cry, And we thought, man, there are people that are in that situation, and this movie can't offer to them anything but keep on fighting and don't give up. That is everything in fighting this disease. That mentality of when you start to turn off that thing in your head where you go, I'm not going to make it. You can't do that. You have to keep that light shining nonstop, and that's a daily thing. And that's why I think people with Lyme are just better human beings. They fight harder. They just come out true warriors on the other side, you know? True warriors.
Absolutely. Riker, it sounded like you were going to add something to that.
No, I was just going to say that about it, one step behind. I was just going to say the cool thing about this film is like no punches were held back.
Yeah.
Like you'll notice, like what you guys never know is when you see a final film, you don't know how many discussions go on about like, do I put that in? Do I remove that? Like there's a lot of like Tony and I had a lot of pressure from the outside where people would definitely not want you to say certain things or like, ooh, is this going to rub? You know, to this day, we still don't know if like this film has never gotten major distribution. Like this was a hustle. We self-distributed this and it's done phenomenal, but like no studio picked it up, right? And there's a lot probably behind some of the things that we decided to be raw and real. Like we could have held back a lot of info, right? Some of the CDC stuff, some of the big pharma, like, right? Like those probably would have opened some doors, right? But that wasn't what it was about. You know what I mean? Like there was a decision made that we're going to show you all the ugly from top to bottom about everything, right? Like raw and real. So like, that's also a big difference about this documentary versus the other fields made their movies to try to be an appeal to what they think is the modern media. This movie was made for the Lyme disease community. Like that's what this film is made for, is to show you 100% the truth, no punches held back, whether you like it or not. That's what it is. All truth and all laid out there, raw and real.
That makes sense on why it resonated with me so much. That
Yeah.
I mean, I'm starting a new campaign these days because of that Lyme rage that we saw, Francis experience on the big screen. Through a few of those moments myself, I was labeled crazy, right? And it's so detrimental when you call somebody crazy and you label them as just that because they can't get out of that. Once you get labeled as crazy, no matter if you're lucid and sane, 98% of the time, if you have one of those meltdowns once a month and you get called crazy, right? Like it's over, it's done. So it was just so beautiful to watch that. And then to see her be, kind of her quote unquote normal, healthier self, but then also have these moments that she moves in and out of. Like I said, it was just so beautifully done. And thank you for keeping the Lyme folks, not selling out. Thank you for not selling out.
Yeah.
What kind of hurdles have you overcome, Riker, with the whole Lyme autism connection and talking about your part of your story in the movie?
I mean, there's definitely been major changes in our family based on like how we handle things, plan of care for my son, for my wife, since they both have it. Like we've made multiple changes. Like obviously until this movie, like when I came on board, we obviously, if you've seen the film, we didn't know my son had Lyme disease. Like, you know what I mean? Like that wasn't even on our mind. Like Tony was the one that pushed it. He's like, dude, maybe you should like look into this. There's a connection there. And like, it almost seems fake in the movie. Like in my mind, it's almost unreal that we discovered that mid filming, like, right. That's crazy, but it was real. So like, we've definitely taken in data, taken in info, gone to multiple appointments. We now see naturopaths. Like we now have changes that are made to both of the people's lives, both my wife and my son. So it has made a positive impact on my life by tackling it head on and like, doing things differently. Grant you, it doesn't take it away. Yeah. Lyme's not going anywhere. Like we live with it every single day. I will say that probably above all of it, just like you described with your husband and your stepson, right? You pointed on this. Above everything, I think that when you get a little removed from it and you can like, it's hard when someone you love tells you they're in pain every single day, right? Like, hey, I'm like at a certain point, man, you're like, let's say we got 3 kids, right? And we have a pretty hefty schedule because special needs kid. At some point, you want to say like, like, honey, like I need you to do this or what. I know you're having a flare day, but like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you lose your patience yourself as a caregiver and you start to get kind of like, you get into it. This, right? I think watching the movie all together, I think hearing people's feedback gave me more compassion towards my own wife. You know what I mean? Like I was able to step back and go, man, I need to check myself sometimes because yeah, I'm frustrated at her because she can't do things or bails out on stuff. But at the same time, like, I'm not that person either, right? Like, thank you, Jesus, that I'm not the one in that pain. I'm not the one that can't get out of bed one day because my body in my 30s hurts so bad that, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like, I think the movie really changed my outlook on my own internal family.
And you brought up another
And
great
not
point.
to,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, Riker, not to mention the fact that then we go to Dr. Mitchell. This is also totally unscripted, and this is the beauty of shooting and creating documentaries, and find out that he had a son with autism and Lyme, and had the same the same. That was crazy. That was
super.
insane.
Yeah, some of these things like people would never know. You know, they may go, "Oh, that can't be real." No, it all is. Like everything is 100% unscripted and live.
Absolutely. And thank you. Bringing in that beautiful part of the caregivers, because I mean, that is such a huge piece. Like from when I originally got diagnosed with my ex-husband, who was a total jackass, not supportive, made me wrong for being sick, you know, on a regular basis, but he didn't know any better at all. You know, if you take somebody who's never had any kind of mental health issues, any kind of sickness, to try to get them to understand what's going on is really tough. You know, so God bless him. New husband, very supportive, totally different story. And I am doing better than I ever have, you know, so it is imperative. I mean, don't ever lessen the value of what you guys are doing for the people in your family. And yes, we know that it does get tough for you guys, and my God, we love you so much, but thank you so much for everything that you do for us, because man, without you folks, a lot of us wouldn't be able to do what we do. And so that's just, I just loved you guys bringing in that caregiver piece into the documentary as well. Like it was just so beautifully done. It's like the unsung heroes, and you brought them into the light.
Tony, do you remember when we were in Pennsylvania at the smaller red carpet event? I don't remember what was the city? Not Philly. Where were we at?
Harrisburg.
And I remember we met a couple and we talked to them later. And this is a family that lived with their kid having it for forever. And their response, either the next day or that night, was, in the car ride home, we just cried the whole way home together. And all my parents could say was, "We're so sorry. We had no clue just how like serious it was. Like it impacted at that level that like sometimes, you know what I mean? You get so trapped inside it that you don't have a minute to breathe and get outside of it." So like that was impactful for me to hear like them, like then you check yourself and go, well, how supportive am I? You know what I mean? Like for my own mental health and being it. So I remember that was huge for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough all the way around for sure. And God bless you guys for doing what you do. So what were some of the other parts of the movie that you thought were really different compared to anything else that you've seen out there? Something that you were just like, man, this is amazing. This is going to blow people's minds.
To me, you just spoke of it. When was the last time we saw a documentary where the caretaker is given some light? And coincidence or not, I am the filmmaker and the caretaker, so I guess it's a short bridge right there. It's right there, right? But I had the idea in interviewing Dr. Richard Horowitz, because when I was in his car with him, I didn't know that I was going to go in the route of talking about the caretaker, you know. And I asked him, why did you become a doctor? And he said, well, you know, it's the oath and this and that. And I always wanted to take care of people. And I said, no, there's something else. What is it why do you do this really, Richard? And he said, my wife was 21 years his Lyme. And I went, oh, you're a caretaker as well. He said, I am. And she's my guinea pig. And I said, wow. So then we talked, I mean, we spoke for 2 hours, you know, and we're actually thinking of putting a cut out there with the longer versions of these chats, because they're incredible. And he talks about what it means to be a caretaker and deeper analysis, you know. And to me, when I heard that, I thought, I don't think I've seen any documentaries on cancer or chronic illnesses where other caretakers would watch it and feel validated as well, you know, because when we were showing these movies, I was hugged by many men in tears.
My husband now would be one as well. I mean, it's excruciating to hear your partner, you know, say that they want to check out. or to watch them melt down and not being able to do anything for them. Like we saw, Francis in the documentary, nobody, you guys are in a special club, because nobody.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Absolutely. So we have a few minutes left. I would love to go with each one of you and kind of talk about what you guys are working on next, or, this is kind of like shameless plug time. I'll put everything that you talk about in the show notes to make sure that people can get a hold of you. So, Riker, let's start with you. What do you got going on?
Well, as you guys know from the film, I work in the industry and have a son in the industry. So some of the things that are going to come for me definitely in the coming year is I'm definitely going to have some stuff from our company that is going to go a deeper dive into like the educational section for our industry. And obviously that crosses over into Lyme disease, right? So like, it'll be a lot more like what we found is this, we're a very large therapy agency. So like we help kids with getting therapy that has special needs. What we don't do is outside of that, we don't do that deep dive on all the aspects of doing it. So we will cross over into it in the following year, doing a lot more video formats where we will actually help educate and bring light to a lot more of it. So we will do our own little mini things all along the way and reach out. And that came from the film where I realized that there is a need and a yearning for more info, right? Like just on Lyme disease, you don't realize how many people have no clue what Lyme disease is. Like to them, like to us, it's like talking about, a steak dinner, like everyone knows about it, right? It's not like that. Same thing goes in my industry, like talking about, special needs. Some people kind of know what autism is or what, some people don't at all. And then it goes even deeper, just like I've been in the industry all this time, had an autistic kid 13 years. And until Dr. Mitchell sat down in front of me, I had no clue how many options there are for healing and help, right? So like, that's something that we want to do. I want to get more people that are specialists in that field that have that don't give up attitude and bring that info to light for people.
That's beautiful. Thank you. What about you, Tony?
Well, we have a few things going on, but we're not going to dive into documentaries anytime soon. We thought of doing The Monster Inside Me Part 2, right? And we would do it where we would go to countries that have it really hard, like Australia and Sweden. And we've gotten so much feedback from them saying, come here, nobody believes us here. And we thought, what if we showed some countries that have Lyme and all the doctors are in denial? And then we also had the idea of going into an Amish community because the Amish are riddled with Lyme. And maybe we'll dress up Riker there as an Amish and throw him in a community for a month and put some hidden cameras in there, But so that might come if we get the funding, if it was the opportunity. But Francis and I are working on a fiction film now. We want to do, a couple of short movies and sort of keep our creative juices flowing. We went to a couple film festivals and we got awarded for the movie, and it really it ignited in us, desire to do more short films and stuff like that, and enter them in film festivals. So I don't know if I told you this, Riker. We got accepted. Yeah, no, it's crazy heavy, man. It's crazy heavy. Yeah, we got accepted in a Christian film festival in a church, and they said the person wrote me said, we love your movie, but can you censor out all the cuss words? I said, sure. So I went in the movie and I censored and including Robin Williams, right? And then I sent it to them so they could show it. So that was interesting.
That's awesome.
So yeah, the film festival circuit is a lot of fun, and it gets a lot of, when we showed the film in the Sholo Film Festival, we were astounded by filmmakers that watched our movie and later said, wow, I had no idea, and stuck around for the Q&A and talked to us, And then there was an actress who had Lyme, and she watched our movie. And so, the connection in the Lyme community is not only through Facebook and galas and the Lyme organizations and stuff. So we're expanding it a little bit more, we recently had a couple of film critics to review our film. And so we want to continue with TMIM, expanding and awareness. But Francis and I are, while doing that, also going to be doing some fiction work as well. So that's our
Heather,
That's
you
our
know,
passion,
Fast and the Furious. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Oh, that's
Every
awesome.
year it's gonna be TMIM 2, next year 3. Tony has a seven-year contract, and each year he has to put one out every year. So it's a whole thing. Yeah,
That's incredible.
we're no.
Let's
The last thing I would add
not
is
forget.
Heather, what do you say,
Let's
Tony?
not forget the Lyme reality TV show. We're gonna put 10 Lymes in the house with cameras.
That sounds like my own
Let's
personal
see what
hell.
happens.
Yeah. The other thing,
Yeah.
the last thing I would wrap up with, Heather, is this. This is something that probably a lot of filmmakers would shy away from, but it was important to us or not. Both of us are Christ followers. Our faith means a lot. Like, we didn't pull any punches back on how we feel in the film. We obviously talked about what a big portion of that is to us. And like, we had lots of people that thanked us for not holding that portion back, because a lot of filmmakers don't, right? They kind of push it to the side with the worry that someone will go, oh, well, I don't want to watch it from that angle. But that is our angle. That is where we feel, our motivation, our trust, our faith comes from. So like, that was important to us. It was beautiful to see people that took that, regardless of their background, faith, whatever, that just love that portion of it, that we put that out there unashamed. So that was important to us.
And what's really, really cool about that aspect is, you remember Evans in the movie? He said that he had the dream and he was standing in front of the painting, but he couldn't see it. And God said, take a step back. He texted me today and he said, hey, I just thought of you. Just wanted you to know that I'm praying for you. And I went, what?
Aww.
That's really cool. So there's that connection, that was awesome. That guy is sweet as honey, man. He's awesome.
That's awesome.
But hey, Heather, there's a lot of hope in your eyes still. There's a lot of fight in you still.
I'm just beginning. I'm just getting started,
man.
I want LymeBoss. I want LymeBoss behind her. Like, I heard that in the beginning. I really want, like, I could see a neon sign like behind her that has LymeBoss. I would really like that.
I am loving I am picking up what you're laying down, mister. I'll get right on that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yay. Right. Well, God bless you both. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you,
I look
Heather.
forward to
Thank you for having us,
getting
Heather.
this out. And I look forward to connecting. Like they said, don't give up. There is hope, right? And keep fighting. Thanks for joining us.
TMI Tim 2.
Thank you for doing this, Heather.
Starring Vin Diesel as Tony, coming soon your way, movie theaters.
And so it is.
Later.